What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope we're all doing well. Decided to do this Sunday instead of Saturday. Some stuff going on Saturday. We'll probably be just on Saturdays like next month, and then we'll probably for the last 2 weeks until I go back to school, do it over Zoom Monday through Friday, most likely for the most part. And then I'll make an announcement once I finalize my schedule for what we're gonna do during school. But regardless, it'll probably be at least 3 or 4, not 5 times a week, and I'll have the studio, so that'll be cool. Anyway, let's focus on the present and let's talk some baseball standings. What the standings look like. We are a day from the All-Star break. Today's the last day of games until we go on the break. On Monday's the Home Run Derby. We'll get to the Home Run Derby field on the All-Star rosters in a little bit, and then you have the All-Star game, and then Friday, after a couple of days off, the second half of the season resumes. And you got the trade deadline coming up too on August 1st. That's in about 3 weeks or so. American League East Rays are still in first place, but they are struggling. Still the best record in the American League, but are definitely in a slump. They've lost 7 straight games. They got swept by the Phillies, who I think are right now are the last wild card of the National League. And the Orioles have won 4 straight games, on the verge of sweeping the Twins, and they're only 2 games behind Tampa in the American League East. They're right there. I got the Yankees in third place at 49-41. Toronto also at 49-41. Both those teams are 7 games out of first, and the Red Sox in last place. 47-43 are in last place. That's tough. If they were in the American League Central, they'd be in first, and they're in last. That's how dominant that division is. 4 games over 500, you're in last place. It's kind of tough. I mean, 4 games over 500 isn't anything super spectacular. Probably isn't a playoff record, but it's close to one. It shouldn't be in last place. It should be at least in like third place. That's really tough. American League Central, the Guardians have overtaken the Twins for first place in the American League Central. Only a game over 500, but that's what it takes to win that division right now. Twins are half game out. They're at 500, 45-45. Tigers are in third place, 39-49, which is they're 10 games under 500, but only 5.5 games out. They threw a combined no-hitter yesterday. Matt Manning had no hitter through 6 2/3, but it was only a 2-run game. It was only 2-0, and he walked the batter, so it was 91 pitches. AJ Hinch pulled him, but he got 4 outs out of Jason Foley, and Alex Lang, their closer, came in for the save. So combined no hitter over the wall to beat the Blue Jays. White Sox 38-53 have been horrible. They're 8 games out, and the Royals are buried in last place, 25-65. They are 40 games under 500 at the All-Star break. Second worst team in baseball besides the Oakland Athletics, and very, very close. Texas Rangers, they've been struggling for a while now. Their division lead is down to just 2 games over the Houston Astros, who are now 10 games over 500 of 15-40. Houston's been up and down this year. Like I've talked about in the past, they've had some injuries in the rotation throughout the year. Don't have maybe your best player and Jordan Alvarez right now, your all-star DH. He's injured. You're got the oblique injury that's going to cost him a while. I don't think he's that close to coming back. But they were struggling a little bit, especially offensively, but they've been playing well lately. Only 2 games behind Texas in the West. Seattle's had a disappointing year. They're at 500 right now. The Angels are falling apart. They've lost 5 in a row and 9 in the last 10. Mike Trout was out 6 to 8 weeks. He broke his hamate bone in his hand. That's a tough loss for the Angels. He's hurt now. Angels falling apart, and they might end up being sellers up a deadline. And the A's are, of course, in last place. 25-66, worst record in baseball. Royals are right there, too. Royals lost 6 in a row. Those 2 teams, a race to the bottom. Is like the 98 home run rate between Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa, the man at 30 for 34. It's like that, except for the worst record in the baseball. And it seems meaningless, but it means something because now you have the draft lottery now, so neither team is guaranteed the first pick. But the number 1 pick next year is probably going to be Jack Caglione, who's basically Ohtani 2.0. He this year for University of Florida. He hit 33 home runs, and he also pitched for him. He was horrible in the last game of the College World Series. In Game 3, he didn't pitch well. He had like 6 runs and only like an inning and a third, but overall he had a great year. He's like Ohtani 2.0. He's probably going to be number 1 pick next year, so the race to the bottom is on. Those two teams, I think, gotta be tanking, especially Oakland. National League East, Braves are on another stratosphere right now. They are 60-28. First team to 60 wins. They are 32 games over 500. The Marlins are a playoff team, and they are 52-39. That's crazy. You get the Marlins, who are in the playoff right now. I think they are. Yeah, they're the first wild card in the National League. They are 13 games over 500. They're 9.5 games out of first. Got to 48-40. They're the last walk in the National League right now. They're in third. Got the Mets 42-47. Lost ones have been playing better lately. They're showing signs of life. They're now, I believe, they're 6.5 games out of the wild card now. Showing a little bit of life. They took 2 out of 3 from San Francisco, who's been lately they're struggling, but overall they've been playing well. They swept the Arizona Diamondbacks, who've had a really good year, and then later today it's 2:00 by the time I'm filming this. So by the time you guys see it on YouTube, the game may already have started, but they play the Padres today in a big game. If they can take 2 out away from the Padres and possibly get within 5.5 games of a playoff spot, the Mets can put themselves in a good spot. That would make them. There'll only be 2 losses in their last, so they make them 7-2 going into the break. They've won 6 of 7 in July so far, so that'll be put them in a good spot. And they have Nationals buried in last place at 35-54. In the National League Central, very exciting division between the Reds and the Brewers. Reds are 10 games over 500. They've been playing phenomenal baseball, 50-40 on the year. Elvis De La Cruz, last night he got a base hit, which scored a run. Next pitch, he stole second. Next pitch, stole third. As the pitcher was walking back to the mound, his back turned to the catcher, he stole home. He stole 2 bases in 1 play. He stole 3 bases on 2 pitches. He's absolutely incredible. The Reds are like 21-7 or something like that since they called him up. I've never seen a top prospect make an immediate impact like he has. It's been absolutely incredible. Their teams on Milwaukee was 48-42. Got the Cubs 41-47. They're 8 games out. It'd be interesting. That's a team. They got some nice pieces to sell. Marcus Stroman has 2 years left on his contract. They only signed him this offseason, but he can opt out. And he's wanting an extension. The Cubs said they're not going to extend him before the trade deadlines. You wonder, could they trade him? He's having a great year. One of the best years of his career. Also got a big mouth. But we saw his antics with the Mets the last couple of years. But he is a very good pitcher, and he's had a great year. Yeah, Cody Bellinger has had a bounce back year. Guy was MVP in 2019. Last 3 years was terrible. He had like 200. Not only has maintained Gogol's cover defense in center field, he's swung the bat very well as well when he's been healthy. He was injured for a little bit earlier in the year, but he's also had a really good year. And I think he has a mutual option next year, so he could be on the contract next year, may not be, but he could be a very nice piece for a contender to pick up as well. Remember, he also has a World Series championship with the Dodgers. And the Pirates, 40-49, they got off to a great start this year, have fallen back on earth since then. A little better than we expected, I guess. Still aren't very good. And the Cardinals are 37-52. They have been awful. They are one of the biggest disappointments of this season. National League West, Arizona Diamondbacks, 52-38. Haven't been playing phenomenal, but they're hanging in there. Still first place in National League West. Overall, had a really good year. They're so good offensively. I think they're like 4th in the league in run scored or something like that. Their pitching just needs a little work. Dodgers, still there, only half game out of first place. San Francisco Giants, who've been slumping a little bit. They lost 2 or 3 of the Mets, who came in playing really bad baseball before. I think they lost the series before that. And think they have the rubber game against Colorado later today. I think they're 3.5 games out of first. But the Padres 42-47. Of course, major disappointment in the first half of the Padres. I would say the 2 big disappointments this year are the Padres and the Mets, and the Cardinals are probably right there as well. Then he obviously got the Chicago White Sox probably in the category. Also, they're also like the Mets playing a tiny bit better, but still been a major disappointment. 9.5 games out of first play. I think they're also 6.5 games behind the Phillies for a wild card spot. And Colorado, 34-56, is buried in last place in the National League West. I think there's some teams that are really disappointing in the first half. Well, let's talk about the good teams that have had some of the made some of the strongest impressions the first week. I would say, first of all, the Baltimore Orioles might be number one. They have been incredible. They have the second best record in the American League. 53-35. They're 18 games over 500. The second best record in the American League. I think they have, and I believe, the third best record in all of baseball outside of Atlanta and Tampa Bay. Only 2 games out of first place. All of a sudden, with Tampa losing 7 straight games, and they're playing good baseball. They've been great. Their bullpen's been dominant. That 8th and 9th inning combination with Yanir Cano, who's been coming out of nowhere, and Felix Bautista, their closer, he's had a record here, has been incredible. Best bullpen duo in baseball. Bullpen's been phenomenal. The rotation's been okay. Also, Tyler Wells has had a breakout year. Offensively, they've been pretty good. Adley Rutschman's, he's something else. They got so many top prospects. Gunnar Henderson's first full year, Adley Rutschman's first full year. Jordan Westbrook came up recently. They just called up that guy Colton Council, whatever his name is. They just called him up. So many young guys on that Orioles squad that have played really well. They've been a pleasant surprise. I mean, the Atlanta Braves, pretty much we had a feeling they were going to be really good. They won the World Series 2 years ago with that crazy trade deadline. They turned it around through a tough first 4 months of the year. Last year, had 101 wins. They ended up stealing the division from the Mets. Lost a little bit earlier in the playoffs than we thought because the Phillies always had that crazy run last year. But they have just been on another level. They're 32 games over 500, best record in baseball. They are absolutely rolling. They're on pace for what's going to be, their 5th straight division title. So remember the Braves of the 90s had great rotations with Tom Glavine, John Smoltz, and Greg Maddux. Only got 1 World Series out of the 14 year, but they did, they got one. So that was an incredible run. And now could they be going on a similar run? This is going to be their 5th straight division title. They won the World Series 2 years ago. They were in the pennant in 2020. They're up 3-1 against the Dodgers that year. So you never know. Maybe they could they win the World Series the second time in 3 years? They gotta be the favorites right now. I don't know who else would be. So with Tampa Bay struggling mightily, I would say Miami's been a pleasant surprise. I thought they would be a little bit better than last year. First of all, shout out to Kim Young, was named the first female general manager in MLB history 2 years ago. She's done a really good job. Horace Slater, who gave a pretty big contract last year, didn't play well last year. He's had a really good year this year. The trade to get Luis Arias for Pablo Lopez was an incredible move. Bringing in Skip Schumacher as new manager. He's the manager of the year, in my opinion, in the National League. You got, trading Starling Marte, or I think 2 years ago, trading Marte at a deadline for Jesus Luzardo has been an incredible move. He's broken out Jesus Luzardo, the young starting pitcher. They got so many young pitchers over there. Offensively, haven't been that great, but the 13 games over 500. That's a team. If they make a move for a bat at the deadline, they could be possibly a dark horse contender coming out of the wild card. I mean, they normally would be in contention for first place, if not in first place. But the problem is, the best team on the planet is also in their division. The Reds have been a lot of fun to watch. They're 10 games over 500 right now. That's crazy. Ali De La Cruz is absolutely spectacular. I think he'll end up being Rookie of the Year. Corbin Carroll's been great in Arizona. But I think he'll end up being him. He's been great. They got so many young guys. Matt McClain. Those two are up the middle. Jeff in India, the veteran Joey Votto coming off the injury list. He's played very well since coming back. Got some guys that are kind of come on there. Like a guy like Spencer Steer. They've been a big surprise this year. Arizona's a team that I thought would be a little better this year and possibly be a playoff team because of how much young talent they had. They've been really good. Offensively, they have been outstanding. Corbin Carroll's had an incredible rookie year. They've been really good. Been a lot of teams that have been a couple of really big disappointments. San Diego, the Mets. San Diego we thought could be a World Series contender, and they're 5 games under 500. And the Mets had $344 million payroll, and they're 5 games under 500. The White Sox we thought would be a lot better than they were last year, have been even worse. Cardinals we thought could win their division. They've been awful. their pitching is atrocious. Their offense isn't even that bad. Their offense has been pretty good. Their lineup's pretty good. I love Jordan Walker, the rookie out there, hitting like 290, I think. But their pitching has been pitiful. Also, I think Ali Marmol was a horrendous manager. But a lot of teams have been we thought would be like, not that good, maybe okay, maybe they get the last wildcard spot. Have been great. The Baltimore Orioles, the Cincinnati Reds, Miami Marlins, and just how good the Braves truly are. You see how well they built that team. A lot of homegrown guys. They give them long 6, 7, 8 year extensions for very, very team friendly value. But you're giving 23-year-old guys 60, 70, 80, $100 million. They're not going to say no. They're getting at least 10, 12 million a year. And I've been surprised by the Texas Rangers, even with Jacob deGrom having Tommy John, him not being a factor at all this year. They've been really good. They've been slumping a little bit lately, but overall have been very good. And offensively, they've been off the charts. So they need a little bit better pitching staff. If they be aggressive at the deadline and bring in a quality pitcher or two, they could end up winning their division. Even with Houston, having a healthy rotation, they get Alvarez back, only 2 games back. Yes, you think, oh, they're going to take over the division. If I was a betting man, I would say Houston probably wins the division. I would bet against them going back to the World Series again. But if Texas can play, get back to where they were, so the first 2 months of the year, look out. They can score with anybody. That's for sure. That's the MLB landscape so far. Now let's get to the All-Star rosters. Here are the starters. In the American League, you got Jonah Heim catching from Texas Rangers. He had a breakout year this year. Yemen Diaz at first base. He's had a big power surge this year. At second base, Marcus Semien from Texas. He got obviously a big contract last year after a 47 or a 40 homer year in Toronto. Not a great year last year, but has come back and have a big year this year. He had 25 game hit streak earlier in the year. Third base, Josh Jung, probably the American League Rookie of the Year. He's had a great year. Corey Seager at shortstop, he's had a great year. So a lot of Texas Rangers. Outfielders are Randy Arozarena. Well, and then it was supposed to be Aaron Judge was going to start, but he's hurt. So Dolis Garcia takes his place. And I forgot who else the other starter was supposed to be, but it's now going to be Austin Hayes for the Baltimore Orioles. Has had a very good year. He's going to start. Of course, Shohei Ohtani is designated hitter. What he's done this year is on another level. You gotta realize he has a shot of breaking Aaron Judge's record. I don't think he's going to do it of 61 runs, but he has like 31 or 32 bombs right now. Judge, I think, had 29 home runs at the All-Star break last year, finished with 62. Otani's got a couple more than him. Triple Crown's not even out of the conversation. And he's pitching and he's one of the best pitchers in the league, too. This is an incredible year for Shohei Ohtani. The National League starters, the catcher is Sean Murphy, who's had a career year. First baseman, Freddie Freeman, what an amazing player he is. Second baseman, Luis Arias, who was flirted with a 400 batting average. Third base, Nolan Arenado, incredible player. Him and Freddie Freeman gotta be put in the conversation for they already Hall of Famers, even though they still have so many years left in their careers. Shortstop is Orlando Arcia. I thought Francisco Lindor should have been an All-Star. Danby Swanson was supposed to start, and he got hurt. They went with Arcia and Geraldo Perdomo. I thought Lindor should have at least been on over Perdomo and even Arcia, but it is what it is. Outfielders are Ronald Acuna, who has been amazing. I think the National League MVP. Mookie Betts from the Dodgers, and Corbin Carroll, the rookie from Arizona. He has been phenomenal. And the DH is JD Martinez, who last couple of years has been good, but not what he once was a few years ago when he was a beast. He's been really good this year for the Dodgers. That was a really good free agent signing by the Dodgers. Gave him a 1-year deal. He's played some really good baseball for them. For the pitchers for the American League, there's been a lot of replacements lately, but as it stands for now, you got the starters. You have Pablo Lopez from the Twins. He actually got in, so Twins lost a trade for Arias. There's no doubt about it, but he did make the All-Star team. You got Shohei Ohtani also made as a pitcher, so Ohtani literally made the All-Star game twice in one season. That's how good he is. You have Shane McClanahan got in. You got Michael Lorenzen because of the stupid rule that every team needs an all-star representative. Michael Lorenzen has a 4.28 ERA. That is not all-star worthy. It's not a bad player. He's a pretty good pitcher, but I think that's ridiculous. Sonny Gray made the all-star team. Kevin Gausman. You got Nathan Eovaldi, who's been brilliant this year. You have a Cole. I think Cole or Eovaldi, one of those two should start for the American League. Luis Castillo, who's been amazing. The relievers got Phil Bautista and Yamir Cano from Baltimore. Now, Emmanuel Clase from Cleveland. Carlos Estevez from the Angels. Kenley Jansen from Boston guy. He's pitched well this year. You got George Kirby is another starter. He got in from Seattle. And you got and they just named Jordan Romano just got in. It was supposed to be Framber Valdez, but since he's hurt, he's not gonna pitch. He just pitched last night. Jordan Romano just got named the closer in Toronto, who's had a really good year. As for the pitchers in the National League, the stars are Corbin Burns, hasn't had as good of a year, but it's been good. Alex Cobb just got named as a replacement. You got Bryce Elder from Atlanta, who was recently named as a no, actually, he made it on the first try. He's had a really good rookie year. Zach Gallen. Josiah Gray from Washington. That's kind of a thing. Oh, yeah, then they need an all-star representative. If he has had a good year, they got him in the Scherzer and Turner trade. He's very good. Mitch Keller has finally put it together in Pittsburgh. Clayton Kershaw, 10th all-star selection. He's still kicking it. Kawhi Singer from the Mets as a rookie. I mean, he's 30 years old, but obviously played in Japan his whole career. He's named as a replacement. He's had a good year for the Mets. And then you got Spencer Strider from the Braves, Justin Steele from the Cubs, Marcus Stroman from the Cubs, and your relievers are Devin Williams, who's been lights out for the Brewers. You got Craig Kimbrell from the Phillies got in. He's been a little better than he was last year. He's been pretty good. He got in. Josh Hader from San Diego, who's been dominant. He struggled a little bit last year after coming over from the trade from San Diego from Milwaukee, but he's been typical Hader this year. Camilo Doval has been great. He throws 102 miles an hour, leads the league in saves. Alexis Diaz, Edwin Diaz's brother, has been phenomenal this year. And David Bednar from the Pirates. All-Star game's kind of a joke, to be honest. Used to be, whoever won the All-Star game, like that league would get home field advantage in the World Series. They don't do that anymore. Like, for example, I think Francisco Lindor was a major snub, but I think he should have been in, but to me, it doesn't really matter. It's just he gets to rest up for the second half. The game doesn't matter. Every year, guys, they get hurt right before, or they choose not to play, or let's say a starting pitcher pitches 3 days before, so they go, "Well, I'm not going to pitch on short rest in a meaningless game." So they say, "Hey, I don't want to go." So you get guys who get named as replacements who sneak in who probably shouldn't have been all-star. Well, they're bad players; they're good players, but they're having good season, but not all-star or not one of the the best 25, 30 players in the league. But it's a cool thing, I guess. To me, the home run derby is more fun than the All-Star game. I love the home run derby. We'll get to that. Shortly, here are the reserves when it comes to offensive players. In the American League, the catchers were Salvador Perez and Ellie Rushman. Rushman's had a phenomenal year. Love that kid. Salvi, he's an 8-time All-Star. I think he's a Hall of Famer, Salvador Perez. He is still kicking it. Nationally, the catchers were Elias Diaz and Will Smith. So Elias Diaz snuck in. I think that's the whole. Every team needs an all-star role for that benefited Colorado. The infielders to be the reserves in the American League were Bo Bichette from Toronto, Walter Franco from Tampa, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. from Toronto, Whit Merrifield from Toronto, and Jose Ramirez from Cleveland. Jose Ramirez, year in, year out, is always a beast. Bichette's been phenomenal this year. Walter Franco, who at first they didn't put him in, and then eventually they put him in. Vladdy hasn't had his best year, still has been good. Whit Merrifield's had a really good year. He was a guy who was one of the best heroes in baseball for a while. Last couple years hasn't been as good. Getting older, but he's had a really good year for Toronto this year. Nationally, the infielders were Ozzie Albies from the Braves, Pete Alonso from the Mets, Matt Olson from the Braves, Geraldo Perdomo from Arizona, who snuck in, Wilson Rye from the Braves, and James Swanson for the Cubs. But Swanson, I do not believe is going to play because he's hurt. You have Wilson Rye, who's great. Olson and Alonso, 2 first basemen. That match. Alonso's had a weird year. He's only hitting 215. He's got 26 homers and 63 RBIs. Now, he's been great. Perdomo snuck in. I'm not sure if he should have made it, but again, also game's kind of a joke. American the outfielders was supposed to be Jordan Alvarez, has been amazing, but he's not going to play. Aaron Judge isn't going to play either. So I'm not sure if they'll name any replacements before the All-Star game. But Luis Robert made it. They got to take out Mike Trout, who was supposed to start, and then Kyle Tucker. So I'm not sure if they'll make any changes with Judge, Alvarez, and Trout not playing. They bumped up Garcia, both Garcia and Austin as starters, with Trout and Judge not in. And now Alvarez is going to play either. I think Alvarez got in technically as a DH. But Ohtani has just been subhuman this year, so hopefully he started. National League, the outfielders who were reserves were Nick Castellanos, Lourdes Gurriel, and Juan Soto. So tough start this year. Was it like 170 at one point in like early May, but since then he's been fantastic. Lourdes Gurriel have a big year this year. That's been a really good trade for everything. To get him and Gabriel Moreno for Dalton Varsho, who's had a tough year in Toronto. Castellanos got in. The DH for the American League, the other DH was Brent Rooker. Kind of the Oakland got the benefit of the one All-Star for each team, but he's a guy who was in April was like the best player in the league the first month of the year. Has slowed down so, but overall he has had a good year. He had 353 for 465 on base and a 779 slugging with 9 homers and 22 ribbies in the first month of the year in April. But he overall has had a good year. So he's kind of came out of nowhere. He was only 81 career games going into the year. They cleaned him off waivers in November from Kansas City. And the DH to make it from National League, and those was Jorge Soler, had a very good year in Miami. So those are your All-Stars. The home run derby bracket. The 1 seed is Luis Robert. By the way, the seeding is based on total home runs. And at the time that they got invited, I guess. The 1 seed is Luis Robert. He will go up against the 8 seed, which is Adley Rutschman from the Orioles. 2 seed is Pete Alonso from the Mets, who's won it twice. One in 2019, I think in 2021 as well. In 2020, there was no derby because there's only 60 games. Didn't start until almost August. He'll be facing number 70, Julio Rodriguez. That's an exciting matchup. 2 very young, exciting players who have a lot of power. The 3 seed is Mookie Betts. Facing the 6 seed, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Remember him and Alonso in 2019? Alonso won, but Vladdy's performance that year was incredible. That should be a lot of fun. And the 4 seed, Adolis Garcia versus the 5 seed, Randy Arozarena. By the way, the All-Star game in home is in T-Mobile Park in Seattle. So I'm sure Julio Rodriguez will be a fan favorite. So if Alonso beats him in the first round, hopefully he's not booed too loud. But I wouldn't be surprised because that's their hometown guy. That home run is a lot of fun to watch for me. I'm very excited. And only other MLB news of the Mets made a trade last week. They got a reliever in Trevor Gott and starter Chris Flexen, who's had year almost 8 this year. Guy who actually started his career with the Mets. I know 2 strong years in Seattle last year. They just cut him, give up a left hand and minor league reliever, and Zach Muckerin. Gott is in their bullpen. That was a pretty good move. Gott's had a pretty good year. Well, he's been okay this year. Mets bullpen's been really bad than anybody at this point. Give up nothing. Texas Rangers made a trade. They got Aroldis Chapman, the Royals closer, for 2 pitching prospects. Well, 1 pitching prospect, Cole Raines, and outfield prospect, and Ronnie Cabrera. Chapman's been the setup man in Texas so far. He's had a bounce back year after a terrible year last year with the Yankees. Carlos Rodon, two nights ago, he came back for the Yankees. Pitched pretty well. Just the Yankees offense got shut out against Jameson Taillon. And the Braves, they hit 2 nights ago. Sean Murphy's home run gave the Braves 167 home runs on the season. That is the most of all time before the All-Star break. The Twins in 2019 hit 308 as a team. That's an MLB record for a team. And the Braves have 167 before the All-Star break. So they might break that record. All right, let's talk some basketball. A lot of free agency moves. There was $1 billion spent in the first hour of free agency. And so I'm going to go team by team. I'm just going to go in alphabetical order for teams. So that's why, might be some like minor move before all the major moves. So I'm going to go team by team. Atlanta hasn't done too much. They extended Dejounte Murray for his $120 million. And they They traded John Collins away to Utah. So that was an interesting move. But Dejounte Murray, I don't have a problem with him getting a 4-year, $120 million extension. To me, I don't think he's a good fit in Atlanta because you have two bull dominant scoring guards of him and Trae Young. I know Murray plays a little more defense. But I thought maybe they were going to trade him after they traded by John Collins, but he's staying in Atlanta. Haven't made any major free agency moves. Boston haven't made any major free agency moves. They signed O'Shea Brissett to a 2-year deal, but they made a big trade to get Kristaps Porzingis. Well, big trade. They get Porzingis. Last year had a really good year, averaged 23 points and 8 rebounds. He shot, I think, 49 or 48% from the field. I think he shot 38 or 39% from 3. He's a good defender. He was top 5 in pick and roll defense. And then the recruiting show with the Wizards and the Wizards get Mike Muscala and Danilo Gallinari from Boston. They get a 2nd-round pick, and they also got Tyus Jones from the Grizzlies. Grizzlies gave up 2 first-round picks to send to Boston for Marcus Smart. It's for Boston. It's tough to see him trade him, but no one was going to take on Malcolm Brogdon because of his injury concern. That being said, sorry, what train I thought. Marcus Smart. It's tough for him to see him go as for Celtics fans. I know some are upset. I do think it's worth it for Porzingis. They got 2 first-rounders back for him, which is really, really good. For the Grizzlies, I do like the move. Giving up 2 first-rounders for Smart, that's a little too much. I think the order they overvalued him. But they really wanted a veteran in that locker room. And also, Smart can be your starting point guard while Ja is suspended. Brooklyn Nets didn't do too much. Sure, they're don't want to make the same mistake and bring in all these stars again. But they re-signed Cam Johnson for the $100 million when the main piece he got back in the Kevin Durant trade. They brought in Dennis Smith Jr. 1 year. He's there for depth. He's not good at all. They signed Lonnie Walker on a 1-year deal. He was a bench player on the Lakers last year. Kim Miller had that big 4th quarter in Game 5 of the Western Conference semis against Golden State. He's now a Brooklyn Net. That's all my Nets to Charlotte Hornets. They just gave LaMelo Ball a 5-year, $260 million contract extension, so that they locked him up. Of course, they drafted Brandon Miller 2nd overall. But by speaking of rookies, I hope you guys are watching with something. It's actually very exciting. And they did give Miles Bridges a qualifying offer of $7.9 million. He signed it, so he'll be unrestricted free agent next year. Of course, he was suspended. Well, he was basically on administrative leave because of all the off-the-court issues he had. But he still got 10 games left of the ending on his suspension. But he will play for the Hornets next year. At the Bulls, they signed Javon Carter 3 years, $19 million. That was interesting. He was a former backup point guard in Milwaukee. They signed Torrey Craig to a 2-year deal. He's a good defender. Got championship experience with the Bucks and the Suns. And they re-signed Kobe White 3 years, $33 million, a young point guard. But they just applied for a disabled player exception for Lonzo Ball, which would be worth $10.2 million. Lonzo Ball is expected to miss his 2nd straight year with that really bad knee surgery that may end his career, which is very, very unfortunate. Cleveland Cavaliers. They made a couple of moves. They signed Ty Jerome 2 years, $5 million. He was really good in college at Virginia. Hasn't done too much in the NBA though. They picked up a big man from Utah, Damian Jones, to beef up their front court. They re-signed Caris LeVert 2 years, $32 million. He hasn't been great since getting traded over from Brooklyn. He's a crazy story. He almost didn't know he had cancer or something. He's a great story. I've always liked his game, but he's been a little disappointing. They signed Georges Niang 3 years. I think he got $26 million. He's a good 3-point shooter, former 76er. And then they signed a trade with the Heat to get Max Strus to give up a 2nd-round pick for him, signed to a 4-year, $63 million deal. I think that's a little too much for Max Strus, but he did play well in the playoffs. He can be a decent 3-and-D guy. 2 years ago, I thought played really well. That was not quite as good this year, but that's a nice rotational piece for Cleveland to have. Dallas was pretty busy, so they do re-sign Kyrie Irving. 3 years, he got $120 million guaranteed. He can make up to 126 and get the other $6 million for incentives when it comes to games play and team success. But Kyrie and Luka are back together. They brought in Steph Curry, Stephen Curry's brother, who's also a great shooter, on a 2-year deal here. He reunites with Kyrie. They played together in Brooklyn, and they may have played together somewhere else too. Not Boston, not Cleveland. Maybe just Dallas. Yeah, they brought in for him. They signed Dante Exum to 1 year. I forgot he was. I don't think he's been in the league in a while. For top pick, they trade for Rashawn Holmes. Made that trade during the draft. They to pick up Rashawn Holmes, who's a really good rim protector. They needed a big man. They tried to address that by trading for Rashawn Holmes, and they also drafted the kid out of Duke, Derek Lavin II. So trying to get better in the trenches. They re-signed Dwight Powell, 3 years, $12 million. And they made a sign and trade with the Celtics to get Grant Williams. The Spurs were involved in that. They were trading Reggie Bullock and I think a 2030 first to the Spurs. The Celtics got a couple of second rounders, and Grant Williams goes to the Dallas Mavericks. He gets a $44 million deal. He was a restricted free agent. Grant's a guy who 2 years ago played really well, especially in the playoffs. This year I didn't think was quite as good. Didn't play as well, but he's still young. I think a nice 3-and-D piece on the bench who Dallas adds. Denver hasn't done too much. They've been a little cap strapped. You lose Bruce Brown and Jeff Green were 2 decent role players you had, especially Bruce Brown. But you signed Justin Holiday on a 1-year deal. You add him to your bench. You bring in Reggie Jackson on a 2-year deal from a Clipper. Was the point for the Clippers the last couple of years. And you re-signed DeAndre Jordan on a multi-year deal for depth. The Pistons, of course, they're in rebuilding mode. They're not giving out any big deals. Of course, the biggest headline was them drafting what's his name? Alfred Thompson, 5th overall. But they traded for Joe Harris, which I thought was a pretty good deal. Nets move an expiring contract, gives them a trade exception. Pistons, they pick up some draft picks and they take on expiring contract. Joe Harris a couple of years ago was one of the best shooters in the entire NBA. Last couple of years, he's struggled a little bit, but I think it's a nice piece for Detroit to pick up. Gives him another veteran. And lucky to help those young guys, and he is still a pretty good shooter. See what happens. And they also trade for a veteran point guard, Monte Morris. They gave up a 2nd-round pick to get him from Washington. Golden State has done some interesting moves. So they re-signed Draymond Green, 4 years and $100 million. They re-signed him. Draymond's a little older, but still a very good defender. Obviously, has 4 championship rings. Steve Kerr said, Warriors don't win 4 rings without Draymond Green, and they don't. And Mike Dunleavy Sr., then the new GM, said they can't be a playoff team without him. So he's back. They signed Corey Joseph to a 1-year deal, which is a pretty good move. It adds another point guard. They just signed Dario Saric to a 1-year deal to beef up their front court. And Chris Paul joined it, of course, comes over in a trade. They trade Jordan Poole, the Wizards, for Chris Paul. He's not the same player anymore, but I do think it helps him as a 6-man. That's going to be an interesting fit over there. We'll see. Houston Rockets were really busy. They signed Fred VanVleet, 3 years, $130 million from a Raptors point guard. He won a championship in his rookie year. They signed Dylan Brooks, 4 years, $80 million. Dylan Brooks, very good defender, can shoot 3 a little bit. Obviously, loves to run his mouth. He's in Houston. Signed Jeff Green to a 1-year deal. He's won a championship in Denver. Aaron Holiday, they added a 1-year for depth. Signed Jock Landale from our Suns backup center. 4 years, $32 million. Then the whole Patty Milton, they got him, and then they ended up flipping him. He's now in Atlanta. Payne was traded 4 times in a week. He was on the Nets last year. Flipped to the Thunder, and then they flipped him to the Hawks for Ty Washington, some other guy, Rudy Gay, a 2nd-round pick. The Indiana Pacers have been really busy, and they've done a good job. They gave Tyrese Halliburton a big contract extension, 5 years, $260 million. Then you got Bruce Brown, 2 years, $45 million. $22.5 million for Bruce Brown's a lot, but he had a really good year in Denver last year. He's a great player. He's a really good player, can score, pretty good shooter, really good defender, very versatile. Just won a championship. And they got Obi Toppin from the next. I did not like the next trade, Obi Toppin, for 2 second-round picks. Overall, numbers-wise, never really reached his full potential in 3 years, but the next didn't play him that much when he averaged 14 minutes a game. I was hoping he would break out this year with the Knicks. But he's a good young player who's got a lot of talent, really athletic. He's an improving 3-point shot. He's improving defensively. Nice young piece for Indiana to pick up. The Clippers, they re-signed Russell Westbrook 2 years, $8 million. I think that's really good value. Russ is still a good 6-man. Mason Plumlee re-signs on a 1-year deal, $5 million. And they trade for Kenyon Martin Jr. He's actually pretty good. Obviously, his dad, Kmart Sr., was a great player. Kmart Jr. is now with the Clippers. And the Lakers were very, very busy. So they re-signed Austin Reeves for $56 million. They re-signed Rui Hachimura, played really well for them getting him in the trade, especially in the playoffs. 3 years, $51 million. They re-signed D'Lo, the veteran point guard. He was horrible in the playoff, but overall had a good year last year in the regular season. He gets a 2-year deal worth $37 million. They brought in Gabe Vincent, 3 years, $33 million. He plays Dennis Schroeder, so he'll probably be their point guard. Or they'll probably start D'Lo, but Vincent's there. He signed Cameron's 2-year deal, the veteran minimum, so that's $4.6 million total. You know, he's a guy who's high pick out of Duke, has never really turned out so far. Also hasn't got a lot of playing time anywhere he's been. And they had Jackson Hayes on a 2-year deal to beef up their front court. People are saying they won the offseason. I don't think they've had as good of an offseason as people say, but I think they're a little bit better. I mean, they still need some more size, but they did add to their bench. Memphis Grizzlies, they gave Desmond Bane a 5-year, $207 million max extension. I think that's an overpay. I don't think Desmond Bane is worth north of $41 million, but he's a really good 3-point shooter. He's still really young. They keep him. Also, they get Marcus Smart in the 3-team trade with Boston and Washington. Also signed Derrick Rose to a 2-year deal. Keep in mind, John Morant is very similar to Derrick Rose when he was in his prime. Like, we have not seen a point guard with the athleticism that, like, Ja has besides Derrick Rose in his prime and probably Russell Westbrook in his prime. So maybe Rose, you know, it's a good chance Ja's game is very similar to Rose when Rose was in his prime. That might be one of his idols. So getting to play with him, that might be a dream come true for Ja. And you can get a true professional in Derrick Rose, really humble guy who can kind of, you know, be like a older brother for Ja, a veteran voice that he really truly needs in his life. So I don't think Rose has much left in the tank when it comes to playing, but he's still I think is still viable to his team as like being like the Udonis Haslem role. Won't play much, may only play in garbage time, isn't that good of a player anymore. But as like a locker room leader, still has a lot of value. And I think that'll be good for John Morant. They also trade for Josh Chris for a young player from Houston, who I think is a pretty good role player. They pick him up. Miami hasn't done too much. They brought in Josh Richardson on a 2-year deal. He's been off the radar for a little bit. They originally drafted him about 6 years ago. The reason Kevin Love to a 2-year deal for player after the second year he played well. You sign him off the buyout market last year. I thought hit some nice threes in the playoffs. And Thomas Bryant got 2 years, $5.4 million. He trying to add some size, and of course they've been. Damian Lillard wants to get traded there. But before we continue, yes, Damian Lillard has requested a trade. I don't understand why he only wants to go to the Heat. I think he should be open to other squad. I think I think it's being a little selfish. But yes, Dame wants out. Milwaukee, they've had some interesting moves. So Chris Middleton opts out and then re-signed 3 years, $102 million. They re-signed Brook Lopez 2 years. He got $48 million. They re-signed Jake Crowder on a 1-year deal. Well, not re-signed, but he's back in Milwaukee. They brought in Malik Beasley, who shot the ball well from 3 last year with the Lakers on a 1-year deal. On AJ Green, I had never heard of him. They signed Brooks Gritter, Robin Lopez to 1-year deal as well, for some depth. So the 2 brothers can play together at least. Timberwolves, they re-signed Nickel Alexander Walker on a 2-year deal. The big move was giving Anthony Edwards a big 5-year extension worth $260 million. I really like him because he's got a nice game. They brought in Troy Brown on a 1-year deal, and also Shake Milton 2 years, $10 million. He's a good shooter to have in your background on the bench. The Pelicans, 3-signed Herb Jones to a 4-year deal with $54 million, and then the nice wing. They brought in Cody Zeller on a 1-year deal for some beef in there at the center position. Also, they signed EJ Liddell with a 3-year deal. He was really good at Ohio State a couple of years ago. The Knicks haven't done too much. Yeah, like I said, I didn't like the Obi Toppin trade, but they signed Dante DiVincenzo, 4-year deal. It's guaranteed. I think $47 million. Can make the year $3 million in incentives. I like this move. He's a really good 3-point shooter, great perimeter defender. Someone played a Hart. He's a really good fit for the Knicks. You reunite him, Brunson, and Hart, who won a national championship at Villanova together. So I like that move. The Oklahoma City Thunder, they make the trade with Davis Bertans at the draft to trade up. They also got Bertans, who's a big guy that can shoot a little bit. They bring back Victor Oladipo, who's so many injuries have kept him off the court. They brought him over. Signed Jack White to a 2-year deal. I have no idea who that is. Up the Orlando Magic, they haven't done too much. They re-signed Maurice Wagner on a 2-year deal. They also signed Joe Ingles 2 years, $22 million. That's a move that I do like that move. He's a good 3-and-D guy on your bench. The 76ers, they signed Pat Bev to a 1-year deal. Obviously, we know what Pat Bev brings: defense, and more defense. I don't know what his whole take was. I'll teach him how to win, just like I did in Chicago. And Chicago's also in the plans. I don't know what he's talking about, but Mo Bamba's now a Sixer. Well, he comes there on a 1-year deal from Orlando Magic. He played a little bit with the Lakers last year, but was hurt for most of the playoffs. And they brought back Montrezl Harrell on a 1-year deal. Maybe the whole thing behind Bamba and Harrell, maybe because Embiid always gets hurt in the playoffs, give him a little bit more depth. Suns were very, 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 very busy. So the Bradley Beal trade, y'all know how I feel about that. They bring him in. They signed a lot of bench guys. They brought in Eric Gordon to your $6 million, which I like. He's still a pretty good 3-point shooter on your bench. They got Keita Beats Diop on a 2-year deal. Drew Eubanks on a 2-year deal. Damian Lee on a 1-year deal. Tremenzi Metu on a 1-year deal. Josh Okogie on a 2-year deal. And Yuta Watanabe on a 1-year deal. So, they have depth now. Do they, though? I mean, yes, they have guys. None of these guys are good. I mean, Eric Gordon, still pretty good. He's older. He's still a pretty good 3-point shooter to have on your bench. I like Yuta Watanabe. He was pretty good in Brooklyn. He's a good defender. Other than that, I forgot Keita Bates Diop was in the league. I forgot Drew Eubanks was in the league. I definitely forgot Tremenzi Metu was in the league. Josh Okogie is a guy you re-sign. He's a pretty good defender, nothing more. He cannot score. Damian Lee, he's known for just riding the bench for all those Warriors teams. He has a couple of rings, but didn't play very well during them. To me, Beal always gets hurt. Durant's always hurt. If those guys miss significant time, which is very possible, even Devin Booker last year has missed a little bit of time, they're still going to be screwed. I was watching this podcast called The Sportsocracy on YouTube. It's just one guy who's got this other guy who does it with him. A couple other guys actually. He said he hates the Bradley Beal trade, and he said, they're gonna have to fill those bench with second-round picks and mediocre veterans who will take the veteran minimum, and he was right. So we'll see what happens there. And Portland Trailblazers, obviously, they got bigger things on their hands with Dame requesting a trade. And they want 4 first-round picks and 2 quality players. They re-signed Jeremy Grant, 5 years, $160 million. He's a very good player who comes back. I think $32 million is a lot for him, but he's a good player. And they re-signed Matisse Thybulle. They matched the offer sheet that Dallas made for him. 3 years, $33 million. He's a great defender. Kings were pretty busy. They gave Sabonis a multi-year extension. They signed Sasha Vezenkov, 3 years, $20 million. I don't know who this dude is, but apparently he was the EuroLeague MVP. I don't know what his numbers are. I don't know how good, but EuroLeague MVP, he had to be somewhat good. Another young piece on the Kings. It'd be very interesting to see how he fits in. Recent Alex Len on a 1-year deal. They signed Trey Lyles on a 2-year deal, so they keep their depth, and they also they trade for Chris Toronto, a young player from Indiana who I like. So Kings haven't done a whole lot, but I like them taking on a young guy in Mesnikov. He's only making what $6.5 million a year, so if it doesn't work out, it's not a big deal. And I do like them running back this core. You could argue some people want to make a big move, maybe just for Chris Middleton or something like that, but this is a really good young team that might be the second best team in the West. The Spurs were actually pretty busy. They, in the trade with Dallas and Celtics that sent Grant Williams to Boston, they picked up Reggie Bullock, re-signed Julian Champagnie for depth on a 4-year deal. They re-signed Trey Jones for 2 years. Signed Sandro Mamukelashvili. I don't know if I said that right. 2 years. Don't know who that is, but in the Max Strus trade, they got C.D. Osman and Lamar Stevens from Cleveland. But I like Spurs kind of like jumping into some trades, think, hey, we'll grab this piece and just adding some rotational pieces. If Victor Wembanyama is the player we think he is in his first year, Spurs could be in the play-ins. You never know. Troll Rappers, they brought in Jalen McDaniels on a 2-year deal. They re-signed Jakob Pearl for 4 years and $80 million. I think $20 million a year for a backup center is too much, but they gave a first-round pick for him, couldn't lose him for nothing. And they run Dennis Schroeder 2 years, $26 million. I do like him, but that's definitely a down from Fred VanVleet. I think he's a really good number 2 point guard, but I don't think he's a starter. Utah Jazz extend Jordan Clarkson 3 years, $55 million, so it's former 6th man of the year. Is back. They make a trade for John Collins. I like that move. Rudy getting a 2nd-round pick. You have really deep front court now with Lauri Markkanen, who was most improved player last year. You have you have Walker Kessler, who played really well last year. Got him for Gobert, one of the many pieces we got from the Gobert trade. You had Collins, who struggled last year, only averaged 13 and 6, but he's a guy. A couple of years ago was a great player. Gets in a much better situation. And you draft Taylor Hendricks, the 9th pick. And they signed Paul Reed from Sixers to an offer sheet 3 years. Sixers can match some point today, so we'll see what happens. The Wizards completely overhauled their roster. They obviously trade Beal to the Suns. You get back Landry Shamet, Chris Paul. They got back 10 drafted. They got back 4 first-round swaps and 6 second-round picks. That's a lot. And then they trade Chris Paul to the Warriors for Jordan Poole. And you get a couple of future picks now. I love them picking up Poole. I think he's a guy who could bounce back. He's all he did 2 years ago was a big part of that championship team. Also pick up Patrick Bollinger and Ryan Reynolds for depth in that trade. Recent Kyle Kuzma 4 years, $102 million. He played really well last year. Him and Poole there, I think will be a lot of fun to watch. And they pick up Tyus Jones, Gallinari, and then Mike Muscala from Boston in the Porzingis trade. You get, and I like that move a lot. I like Tyus Jones a lot. I think he'll get a chance to play some more. He's a really good defender who can shoot a little bit. Gallinari, older, didn't play last year. He was hurt, but I think he's still a pretty good player. I think though you're buying out or trade him, pricing with Pascal, who I do think is a good backup center who could shoot the ball. That's NBA free agency. There's a lot of moves made, of course. Like I said, over $1 billion was spent in the first hour of free agency. The Raptors are going to extend Gary Trent. They said they were going to agree. They're nearing a lucrative extension. They haven't announced the terms yet. But expect him to be Raptor for the near future. The Magic, they waived Bobo. I thought it was a surprise. That poor guy's never really gotten a chance. He was great in college, but had a lot of injuries at Oregon. He was a 2nd-round pick by Denver. Didn't play that much. They traded him, They traded him to Boston for a day, and they flipped him somewhere else. He ended up in Orlando, and he got a chance to play last year. Actually, played pretty well. I mean, to me, he's almost like a Wembanyama light. I'm not comparing him to. That is not fair. Wembanyama is generational prospect. Meanwhile, Bobo was a late 2nd-round pick who's done nothing in his career. But he's a 7-footer who can dribble, who can handle the ball, and he can shoot. I thought played pretty well last year. And I'm surprised that they waived it, maybe because they have 3 centers there. And Paulo Banchero just won Rookie of the Year. Yeah, Wendell Carter, who gave a 4-year extension, I think a year or two ago, and then Bol, so they didn't want to keep all three, maybe. I would at least try to trade him for a draft pick or something. I heard the Suns are looking at him. I think that makes sense for a team like needs a little more size. The Lakers are the worst to pick him up. But Bol is a free agent. He cleared waivers. Speaking of the matter, they promoted Anthony Parker, the GM. John Hamm moves into an advisory role. The Grizzlies and the Suns made a draft pick trade. Grizzlies got 3 second-round picks. They get 125. They get Norman to second in 28, and then from the Suns 29. Suns get 2 first-round swaps in 2024 and 2030. By the way, how pick swaps work, they literally can swap picks. So whoever acquires the pick, they can choose to keep it, they can choose to literally swap picks. So in 2024, whatever pick the Grizzlies have, whatever pick the Suns get, they'll swap. I'd say it also goes to the Suns. I'm just trying to fill up their bench with literally anybody. Greg Popovich got a 5-year, $80 million extension from the Spurs. So a big contract for him. Amen Thompson is out for the rest of the summer, the point guard for the Rockets for 4th round pick. Great 2 ankle sprains out 3 or 4 weeks. And now I want to talk about. No, first we'll talk about the USA FIBA roster, which has been finalized. Paulo Banchero, the reigning rookie of the year for the Magic. Mikal Bridges from the Nets. Jalen Brunson from the Knicks. Anthony Edwards from the Timberwolves. Tyrese Halliburton from the Pacers. Josh Hart from the Knicks, who's the last guy to make it. Brandon Ingram from the Pelicans. Jaren Jackson Jr. from the Grizzlies. Cam Johnson from the Nets. Walker Kessler from the Jazz. Bobby Portis from the Milwaukee Bucks. And Austin Reeves from the Lakers. Steve Kerr is now the coach. Usually Greg Popovich, but he's not the coach anymore. It's now Steve Kerr from the Warriors. He's the executive director is Grant Hill, NBA Hall of Famer. The tournament kicks off in the group stage on August 26th. The first 3 game will be in the Philippines. So first game is August 26th against New Zealand at 8:40 in the morning Eastern time. It's God knows what time in New Zealand at that time. Then they'll play Greece at 8:40. I wonder if Giannis is playing. If he is, USA is in trouble. And August 30th, they're playing Jordan at 4:40 in the morning. So if you're at August 30th, if for whatever reason you're up at 4:30 in the morning, turn on the TV and watch USA play Jordan. Hopefully they win by at least 20 points in the game, because I forgot Jordan was a country. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, last time they did the FIBA tournament in 2019, they finished in 7th place. Was a major disappointment. The team was really bad. I think it seems a lot better than this team. They have a lot of young guys. Kersey's going to lean a lot on Brunson and Mikal Bridges. The two Villanova guys will go up with the next one with the Nets. This team, I feel like it could be better. They have a lot of guards. You have Brunson, you have Edwards, you have Halliburton. Hart's a wing. Bridges to me is a wing. Ingram's a wing. Johnson's a wing. Portis is a power forward. Jaren Jackson Jr. is a power forward. He's a big. Banchero's a big. Walker Kessler is a big. And you also have Austin Reeves, who's to me the 2 guard. I think the team's really good. I think they should win. They're tied with Yugoslavia or something like that for the most FIBA World Cup championships. Yugoslavia with 5. I think this team's really good. I think they have a really good shot to win the tournament, but time will tell. Now, some of the in-season tournament. That crazy idea that's been talked about for years, it's here. So, the middle of the season, the all 30 teams will participate, and they'll be split into 6 groups, 3 in the East, 3 in the West, by random drawings, and the groups are out. In the East, Group A is the Philadelphia 76ers, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Atlanta Hawks, the Indiana Pacers, and then the Detroit Pistons. Group B will be the Milwaukee Bucks, the New York Knicks, the Miami Heat, the Washington Wizards, and the Charlotte Hornets. East Group C will be the Boston Celtics, the Brooklyn Nets, the Toronto Raptors, the Chicago Bulls, and the Orlando Magic. In the Western Conference, Group A is the Memphis Grizzlies, the Phoenix Suns, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Utah Jazz, and the Portland Trailblazers. West Group B will be the Denver Nuggets, the defending champs. Los Angeles Clippers, the New Orleans Pelicans, the Dallas Mavericks, and the Houston Rockets. And Group C in the West will be the Sacramento Kings, the Golden State Warriors, the Minnesota Timberwolves, Oklahoma City Thunder, and San Antonio Spurs. Heard they did the groups based on like win totals. What's going to happen? There's going to be a group stage where each team will play 4 games, 2 on the road, and 2 at home. The top 6 teams will advance, and then the 2 wildcards. So the top basically 8 teams will advance to the knockout stage. So I think that's going to end up being. It's really confusing how I did. I do not like how I did. I'll get to my take on it briefly. I'm warning you. I don't like this at all, to be honest. So the top 6 teams from each group advance, and then the 2 teams with the best record. So basically, the top 2 teams. How am I doing this? It's almost confusing me on the air. Those 6 teams advance and then 2 wildcards. So basically 8 teams advance to the knockout stage. Then you have the top 8 teams play each other, and then you have the winners go to the conference, basically the semifinals. Summer 7th, and then summer 9th is the championship. This whole thing is so stupid. I'm sorry, this thing is dumb. What's this? The World Cup, the group stage, the knockout stage? This isn't the World Cup. This is the NBA. This thing is so stupid. I hate it so much. I was talking with a bunch of my friends about it last night. One of them was actually Justin, who of course you guys know. He's been on my show. We do our own stuff. And I was telling him, I don't like this. I don't get it. And look at the reward. Like, what's the reward you get? They get money. They're getting millionaires more money if you get to the every player on the championship team gets $500,000. Every team on the second place team gets $200,000. Every player on the team that loses in the semifinals gets $100,000. Each team that loses in the quarterfinals gets $50,000. You'll have a tournament MVP. You'll have an all tournament honor. You'll have like a NBA Cup. Like, they're turning into the World Cup. This isn't soccer. Okay, this isn't the World Cup. This is the NBA. What I would do, going back to like I was talking with Justin, I would take the bottom 10 teams in the league. So I think there's 30 teams. 20 teams make the playoffs and play-ins. So the 10 worst teams in the league. I rank them 1 through 10. Number 1 is the 10th worst team. Number 10 is the worst team, regardless of conference. I have them play like you have 1 versus 10, 2 versus 9, 3 versus 8. Then you have 4v7, 5v6, and have them play a tournament, and the winner gets 3 extra wins on their record. I know it sounds stupid and out of the box, but that could discourage standing. I think that's the only way they can make it work. This thing is so stupid. Like I really had notes prepared about this heading into the podcast. I'm getting confused. This thing is so stupid. The way they've done it is pitiful. The only bit of college basketball news is actually a pretty big bit of news. Bob Huggins denies resigning, so he was forced out, and he has told West Virginia they must reinstate him or he will sue them. So that could get really messy out in West Virginia. For Bob Huggins, been the coach since 2007. Before that was at Cincinnati. He used an anti-gay slur on a podcast regarding the Xavier fan when he was at Cincinnati before he went to West Virginia. He got backlash about that. He had to issue a whole apology. Then he got a DUI recently. He also had a DUI back in 2004 when he was coaching in Cincinnati. And as a result, he decided to resign. What I thought happened was they probably told him, look, dude, we can't employ you anymore. You're doing all this stupid stuff. But because you've had such a long tenure here, you're already in the Hall of Fame. You've been here since 2007. We'll let the fans and the media say the headline, you resign. So they let him resign. Opposed to just like if he was like not that big of a name, they'd probably say, dude, get out, you're fired. But because of how much respect they have for him, like, okay, you can resign, but if you don't want to resign, we're gonna fire you. But they gave him the option. That's what I think happened. But that could get messy. We'll see what happens. As for the NFL, Buda Baker reports are training him. He wants to trade. Hassan Haskins are a second-year running back from the Titans, and his girlfriend got arrested. Basically, they both assaulted each other. Hopefully that situation turns out okay. And on the brighter side, Raiders tight end Foster Moreau has put his cancer in remission. So shout out to him. For the PGA Tour, shout out to Ricky Fowler. He won the Rocket Mortgage Classic, his first win in over 1,900 days in 4 years. John Deere Classic is going on right now. Brendan Todd was leading, I think, at one point. Now it's some other guy. I don't even know what his name. Sepp Straka leads at 19 under par right now in the John Deere Classic, which we'll finish up today. All right, before we wrap up, a couple of things. First of all, ESPN continued their budget cut after the first round. David Pollack got let go. He was on College Game Day. He was a really good college football analyst. He got let go. Susie Colbert got let go, which I couldn't believe. She was at ESPN forever. She ran the pregame and postgame stuff, I think, for Sunday Night Football or for Sunday or Monday night. She had been at ESPN forever. Steve Young, who was on that crew with her, first Hall of Fame quarterback, he got let go. And then Tom McShay got let go. One of the biggest draft analysts, probably the number 2 draft analyst besides Mel Kiper. He's gone. Stephen A. Smith on his podcast said more are coming. He said I could even be next, which I don't believe. He just wants attention. That he made the whole thing. Oh, well, when a white guy catches cold black, I guess pneumonia. I tired of his whole thing with that whole race card he always puts down. I hate that's annoying. But he's making $50 million a year. He's a host of First Take. He's got his podcast. He hosts of Stephen A's World. He's not getting fired. He goes on NBA Countdown. He's on NBA Countdown. I don't think he's getting fired. I wouldn't care. He's obnoxious. I don't like him, but whatever. San Diego State was trying to lead the Mountain West. He's going to stay there. And Joey Chestnut won his 16th hot dog eating contest, his 8th in a row. They were going to cancel it. Then he says, we're going to get the guys together. We're going to do this effort. And they ended up not canceling it because there was really bad weather. Yeah, it's 62 hot dogs in 10 minutes. That's insane. I love Joey Chestnut. I think he's a GOAT, but I can't watch the hot dog eating contest. It's disgusting. It's disturbing to watch. But shout out Joey Chestnut. Shout out Joey Chestnut for his 16th career hot dog eating contest. I think they gotta make a 30 for 30 by this guy. I mean, come on. Joey freaking Chestnut. All right, I know it happened a week ago, but we recap Money in the Bank last week. I know Raw and SmackDown happened. Some crazy stuff happened, but men's Money in the Bank ladder match was won by Damian Priest. The contenders were him, Ricochet, Shinsuke Nakamura, LA Knight, Santos Escobar, Butch, and Logan Paul. LA Knight was this close, but Damian Priest won. A lot of people were upset about LA Knight. Look, I love LA Knight, but I can't be mad about Damian Priest winning. I love Damian Priest. I think he's one of the most underrated wrestlers on the roster. He is such a good wrestler. I think he's really good. I'd say he's been a future world champion since he debuted. He's really good. I love the Judgment Day. WWE loves the Judgment Day. He deserves the push. He's Mr. Money in the Bank. And Triple H said afterwards, that he understands the fans' love for LA Knight. He says, good things come to those who wait. So clearly there are big plans for LA Knight. Yeah. But it was a really, really good match. Damian Priest wins the Women's Tag Team Championship. Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler lost their titles to Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. And then even no longer a tag team anymore. So there's that. In the Continental Championship, Gunther gets knocked out. Gunther retained in what was a pretty good match. Gunther, what a run this guy is on. And then after the match, Drew McIntyre came out. Hadn't seen him since he got injured in the match versus Gunther at WrestleMania. And he beat the crap out of Gunther. Because that set up SummerSlam. And I think it will. I am very excited for Drew McIntyre to be back. Cody Rhodes against Dominic Mysterio. Cody Rhodes won. That was an okay match. John Cena made a surprise experience. He teased having WrestleMania in London. By the way, that London crowd was amazing. The WWE's got to do more overseas events for pay-per-views. They had the one in Mexico City, a WrestleMania Backlash. You saw, with Bad Bunny hosting and his electric entrance. That crowd was amazing. The London crowd was absolutely stupid. The place was rocking the whole night. A couple times, like, Wade Barrett was talking, and Michael Cole goes, "Wade, I can't hear you." He literally couldn't hear Wade Barrett. The Grayson Waller came out and said this place is stupid. But he attacked Cena from behind and Cena AA Grayson Waller. And then we had the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, which was Selena Vega, Becky Lynch, Zoe Stark, Bayley, Io Sky, and Trish Stratus. And Bayley and Io Sky went at it during the match, and then as Bayley and Becky Lynch were climbing the ladder, Io Sky handcuffed the two of them. I remember Trish Stratus and Zoe Stark were trying to handcuff Becky Lynch to the ring earlier in the match. Climbs over them, wins Money in the Bank. She's missed Money in the Bank. That's actually who I predicted. I'm very happy for Io Sky. She deserves the push. We'll see what happens with Damage Control now. I think it's time for Io Sky to have a singles push. She has missed Money in the Bank. World Heavyweight Championship, Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor. Seth Rollins retains. Finn Balor was on the top rope, and then Priest came out with the Money in the Bank. Like during the match, came out with the Money in the Bank briefcase. So you at first you were thinking, all right, maybe he's coming out to help his buddy, and they're like, oh wait, he can cash it in. And as he was on the top rope, and they're looking for the coup de grace, Priest stepped up and stood up in his chair and stared and distracted Finn Balor, and then Rollins ended up countering and hitting with the stomp for the win. That was a really good match. Now it set up some drama in the Bloodline, which is always good. And you had the Bloodline Civil War, Roman Reigns and Soul against the Usos. The Usos won in an amazing match of the year candidate. I'll give it 6 out of 5 stars. Incredible end to the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. What a match that was. That was Money in the Bank. That's all I got today. I will be back Saturday with another podcast. Until next time, so long. Have a great day.